In the most difficult and unbearable circumstances, my wife never lost her serene smile. She always crossed over life's most difficult peaks successfully. When church members ask my wife's advice on raising their own children, she tells them, be patient and wait. The period when children wander is only temporary. No matter what they do, embrace them, love them, and wait for them. Children would always return to the love of their parents. The path for America and humanity in the last days. When America becomes a place where people of all races can live together in harmony, it will be a model for the kingdom of heaven on earth. It is time for us to unite together and open the path that humankind must travel. It is time for America, as the elder son nation, to take the lead in attending God and to complete its mission as the helpsman that brings the nations of the world to God. I ask you to stand with me in accomplishing this historic task.
So just to give you a little background about myself, I spent a big chunk of my life here in New Jersey. I spent 13 years from 1987 to 2000, all of my childhood years here. So some of you might know my parents, Diane and Toshio Kuwahara. My father recently has been translating at IPEC for Reverend Kachi, if you're familiar with the Japanese workshops. That's kind of like his new phase in his life. But I have fond memories of the church here, even when we were back in Newark. And I'll never forget my Sunday school teachers growing up. Some of the ones that come to mind, Mrs. Claire Hyder, Mrs. Willencheck, David Belize, and Brian Sabrin. So fast forward to today. This is my husband. His name is Abraham, or Abe Desatel. And he and I have been co-pastoring at the Family Church of Connecticut. This is our third year now. So he's probably just wrapping up the service over there. He also serves as the music minister, because music is his passion, and I have found that to be married to a musician is a lot of fun. So here he is. He looks so cool at the playground with our kids running around. And he's got a shirt on that has ukuleles coming out of a bomber plane. But ukulele is his main instrument. And he has a recital this afternoon for his students. So that's one of the reasons that he couldn't be here today, unfortunately. But he sends his love. And these are my children. We have 3 boys and a girl. They range from 7.5 to 1.5 years old. And we all live together with my parents-in-law, with my husband's family. And we wouldn't be able to do what we do without that kind of support of family and community. So I want to come before you this morning bringing love not only from Connecticut, but also from our entire subregion. So back in March of this year, when Reverend Damian Dunkley, our sub-regional director, shared about his, what's been coined the wet pillow story, or what I like to call his mountaintop experience, going up to the tree of blessing and praying over to the Chunjungung, asking Heavenly Parent to really connect deeply with the heart of our True Mother, and receiving the inspiration for the rally that we're about to take part in a few weeks. I connected to my own kind of mountaintop experience at that time, and I felt deeply moved and inspired to support our sub-region in whatever way I could. So a couple months later, I received a call from Reverend Dunkley asking if I would be willing to take on the education coordinator role for our sub-region. So that is another way that I contribute, but right now it's just like a once-a-day volunteer role. But ever since we welcomed True Mother in December of last year, and she reorganized our nation into 5 subregions, I felt so much love. I felt that our True Mother was so strategic and really cared so much about all the families in our nation. and of course being able to bring about national restoration as quickly as possible. So I've been inspired to support the efforts that Reverend Dunkley and Milhan Stevens have been making towards becoming one unified body as the nation of the Northeast. And to me, that means that we share our resources, our expertise, and we get outside of our own community perspective, which I think can sometimes be limiting for our growth. So I am also here in front of you because I'm taking the challenge to get out of my own Connecticut perspective. And so for that, I'm very grateful to be welcomed in this beautiful worship space. So the title of my message is, Let's Make It Real. And by it, you'll find out what I'm talking about. But I think we all understand when we consider, this beautiful ideal, God's kingdom. This is what we're singing about in our songs. This is what we're praying for. And this is really the main part of my message that I want to share with you today. And in sharing that, I'd like to give my testimony about traveling to Korea in late September for the Chuseok holiday with our True Mother. So I was asked to go representing our sub-region because Reverend Dunkley felt that this would be a great opportunity for our younger leadership to attend some of these events that tend to be more exclusive, only for our top leaders. So I'm very grateful that Reverend Dunkley suggested that I go, and also to Dr. Kim for really being excited and allowing me this opportunity. And I also just want to thank all the brothers and sisters who contributed to the Founding Fathers and Mothers Fund, which is in support of our nation, our Northeast nation, because this is how I was able to get there. So going to Korea this time for me was really a game changer for my life of faith. Here's a picture of me in the main building. I was actually blessed in that space 13 years before, in February 2005. And that was actually the last time that I was there in Korea. I hadn't been back since. So it was amazing to me to see how much things have developed. I went with an open heart and a desire to be led in the way that heaven had prepared for my being there. But ultimately, the main reason I went was because I just wanted to offer my gratitude to Heavenly Parent and to True Parents for everything that they had given to me in my life since that time that I was there last. So I'm sure that many of you may have visited Cheonggpyeong in 2012 when our True Father passed away. But for me personally, that time in my life I was very distant. My heart was very distant from our movement. And it took me a number of years to come back around and really understand that my relationship with True Parents is on a continuum of growth and development, which I didn't see before. And to realize that God had been guiding my life so uniquely and lovingly up until that point. So this past August, we celebrated the 6th anniversary of our father's passing. It's already been 6 years. And this time, as we were watching the live broadcast, I couldn't help but just weep, because I felt so sorry to our True Parents that I didn't understand as much as I feel that I do now in terms of God's providence and my special role in it. I felt like I wasted a lot of time. And I felt like I wish that I had done more when our true father was alive. So when I was given this chance to go to Korea, for me it was my opportunity to give back to our true parents and also to encourage them. So I intentionally planned my flight so that I would arrive early in the morning the day before, so that I could take some time to explore for myself the HJ Chunwon complex, which is, it includes the training center and all the buildings around it, including the Cheonjeonggung, which hadn't been built the last time I was there. It was just level ground. So I didn't have time to do any research, but actually for me it was more special to walk around and discover it for myself. I was dropped off at about 9 in the morning at the International Youth Center, and there was nobody there, nobody around. And I didn't know where I was going, but I just started walking down the hill, and I knew that things were within walking distance. But before I knew it, I started to see and realize, oh, okay, this is where the training center is. And I felt so guided by our Heavenly Parents' hand. And I also felt like I could really see and experience our true mother's loving hand in the development of all these beautiful buildings, like the HJ Magnolia, or even walking around in the training center. There are these little bits, even just picnic tables here or there, or playground, a little playground here or there. There's a Chinhwa Park, and this is a picture overlooking Cheonpyeong Lake from that spot. And I felt like, wow, I can really bring my family here. I can see myself just coming and relaxing and taking rest here. So it was a really unique time, because normally Cheonpyeong is bustling with people, right? But actually it was completely empty when I was there. And this is because of the Chuseok holiday. They had ended the weekend workshop early and people were home. This is a national holiday in Korea, and they all head home to their hometowns. So it gave me a unique opportunity to just be there and just to soak it all in, and just to consider what it was like for our national leadership to be there just a few weeks before, praying at every tree, really emptying themselves and uniting their hearts with our true mother. So this was a really good preparation for me as I was getting ready to greet our true parents on the Chuseok day. So the most memorable part of my experience in Korea was actually that morning, Chuseok morning, when we went and prayed at the Bonhyangwan, or Father's gravesite, Father's Wonjeon. So I heard that normally the leaders will walk up a big hill. The Bonhyangwan is located in the back of the Cheonjeonggung Palace, but this time we went through the building. And later I found out that for a time, nobody was allowed in that area. But there were about 70 of us this time, and we offered a bow and a prayer. And then afterwards, we were all encouraged to walk around the earthen mound. So there's a picture here of the Paju Wonjeon. It's where our true family members are buried. So the Bonhyangwan looks very similar to that. It's a big earthen mound. And all the leaders were encouraged to walk around it and place our hands on the earth and to say a prayer. So when I went up to the earthen mound, I put my hands on that place, and immediately I felt this incredible energy come into my body. But actually, right in that moment, I also felt my own spirit and my own energy to the same degree giving back into the earth. And I said at that moment, "We love you, true Father, and we're here to honor you on this Chuseok morning as a true parent of all humankind. And I said it simply and confidently, and then I walked away. And as I was walking away, I realized I had never really prayed like that before. I had never really prayed in a way where I completely let go of myself. Any aspect of preservation of my own fear or my own limitations, any aspect of myself, I let go because I simply just wanted to give. And it was an incredibly affirming moment at that experience for me. It was affirming my own identity as God's daughter, and also my truest motivation and purest desire to just simply want to be a filial child and just give as a filial daughter would. So it was really amazing to have that experience. And ironically, like the next moment after, when we went into the dining room to have breakfast with True Mother, I was immediately hit with these feelings of doubt. These feelings like, well, maybe I don't really belong here, and I don't really fit in, and whether it was because I'm a woman, and at these types of events, there are a lot of men in these types of events. I felt like the minority, definitely, and as a younger person. And also I was wearing this white suit coat, but then actually all the staff who were helped serving the food, they were also wearing the same white suit coat. So I started feeling like, oh no, I came here because I'm trying to be this leader representing our subregion, and nobody's taking me seriously, this kind of feeling. But actually holding on to that moment, what I had just experienced at the Bonhyangwan, really helped me overcome these kinds of feelings of doubt. And of course, as soon as our True Mother walked into the room, everything changed. And I'm finding that the more and more that I'm around True Mother, I am becoming more empowered and more confident as a woman. And I'm coming to understand what it means to lead gracefully in this capacity. So also when we were at the banquet that morning, Dr. Kim sang an old Korean song. And it took me back, way back, to when I lived in New Jersey. And I would go and visit Belvedere with my dad on Sunday mornings. Somehow when Dr. Kim was singing this song, I didn't know the song consciously, but all of a sudden I started singing along. It was like these memories that were in the recesses of my mind were suddenly becoming resurrected. These experiences that I had had in my past, whether leaders sang those songs or true parents sang them, or maybe my dad sang them on the way home. He sings a lot in the car. And I had a similar experience later in the day when we were watching the moon with our True Mother. There was a big banquet in the evening, and we all went outside to where the Chungshim Peace World Center is, and there was a tent set up, and the evening was just filled with song. And some of the true grandchildren sang some of the old classics, American songs. And Peter Kim sang Danny Boy. And Reverend David Rendell, who was standing next to me, he's the director of Subregion 3, he said, it's just like old times, singing outside with our true parents. I felt like I was taken back to a time with true parents that I had long forgotten. I felt like I was suddenly awakened to the truth that actually the true parents that I always saw as a kid and the true parents that I see now are the same. They've never changed. But the only difference now is that this ideal that they always talked about is suddenly becoming real to me. While I was in Korea, I felt like I suddenly became present to what our true parents have been up to all this time, which is to build Cheongguk substantially. I can see now that this glimmer of a vision that I always heard about is actually possible and tangible. And it's something that begins in the culture and that expands outwards to touch everything substantial that we see around us. And I think this is why True Mother has been emphasizing Hyojung culture in everything we do now, to come back to the root of who we are and where we come from, and to create our environment centered on this kind of heart of attendance. So I have a friend of mine, a young unificationist friend, who's also has a young family, asked me a few months before I left, a little bit critical of our movement right now. Really, Mika? What does that mean, True Mother's building the kingdom of heaven in Cheongguk? And at that time, I couldn't really answer confidently because I had heard a lot, but I hadn't actually experienced it for myself. As we attend our True Mother at the rally, because we understand that sometimes all it takes is showing up. And that in being able to do that, we can have a breakthrough experience. I pray so much upholding the names of our true parents and in the names of all these beautiful and precious blessed central families gathered here today. Aju.